Last week I was on Ichabod. So if any of y'all,
Shit. Are we still streaming?
You cut out. I don't know if you're streaming. It looks like it's recording still, but you cut out.
Yeah.
You said you were on Ichabod last week. Now he's gone altogether. Well, as former co-host of the show, I guess I'll take over until he gets back.
I'm back.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we're having
Yeah,
some technical issues. Okay, my bad. But
Ichabod last week.
yeah, I was on Ichabod last week with Be Good, aka Fanatic. Well, FKA Fanatic, Christian rapper from Cross Movement. And so we chopped it up, talked about God logic and some of his bad arguments, in my opinion. So, but anyway, if y'all tuned into that, I appreciate y'all coming on. And give me 1 second, Ontangelo. I'm gonna send you the link before we get started here. Hey, Fasad, how you been, man? Just don't want dead air
Bit
while we're.
busy, man. I've been busy. Got
Oh
new
yeah.
new gig. Got lots to figure out. Traveling back and forth to work. Obviously, Memorial Day weekend just happened, and I went up to New York.
Oh, nice.
Went over to Lake Placid, New York.
Ah.
It's really, really gorgeous there, but I don't understand the economy because there's nothing nearby. And the cheapest house we saw as we passed by a realty shop, which happened to be a thing, there was a
Mm-hmm.
realty shop, was 600 grand.
Hmm.
There is
Ah,
one grocery store and no Walmart.
that's crazy.
So I don't know how people afford to live there, but whatever. Uh,
uh,
what's the topic for tonight?
we're gonna do arguments for God. Um, I didn't really discuss this a whole lot with Fontangelo, but I see I've seen some of your talks on Talk Heathen, so I had assumed you were going to use some sort of teleological argument. Oh, am I wrong? Okay,
No, no, you're right.
okay, yeah, sure. So like, I guess like whatever you got, I like to hear it, and I guess like, first, could you start off with just give us a synopsis of it, and then break it down.
Yeah, my approach is basically a cumulative argument for God's existence,
Okay.
which starts with a very basic question. There is a true dichotomy, either there is a God or not. Okay?
Yeah.
And I describe God with terms which are very reduced.
Okay.
God, in that proposal, he is eternal, powerful, conscious, and intelligent mind.
Okay. Eternal,
Okay,
conscious, and intelligent mind.
and the contrast is to the no God hypothesis, where there is no deity whatsoever on the other side.
All right.
Okay,
True dichotomy.
and
I agree. We're
yeah,
starting off good.
so
I actually don't necessarily agree because that's not a true dichotomy. You technically defined God as having specific characteristics, and then you specifically said no deity. That wouldn't be a true dichotomy. A true dichotomy would mean that a specific deity with those exact characteristics wouldn't exist. And I hate to nitpick this early on,
Okay.
but if we're going to say that any God could exist, then that's not a true dichotomy because a God that doesn't meet those exact criteria could technically still exist.
Well, so Antangelo, would you say that if there was another God that existed besides the one that you define, would you still say that would fall on the God side
now
of the
what I am
disjunction?
basically saying that we have two buckets.
Okay.
In one bucket there is no deity, and in the other bucket there is an entity
Okay.
which we can call God.
Okay.
Okay, so it doesn't matter to me if that deity is described as I just did, or if it has other characteristics, or if it is a plural God, if it is a pantheon of gods.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
All right.
There, I would say maybe there would maybe be something in between, which would be pantheism, where creation and God are one thing.
Okay.
But to simplify, um, usually in the theist atheism debate, there are on the one side atheists which do not believe that there is a creator God or any entity whatsoever at the bottom of reality, and on the other side there are theists which believe there is.
Okay.
Okay, so that is basically the starting point. But one very important definition which I give to a deity is that this deity is intelligent.
Okay. So
Okay,
if it's not intelligent, it is not a god in your mind.
that's not the point. What I am doing is I'm contrasting a God which is intelligent, which is an intelligent mind,
Mm-hmm.
to the no God hypothesis. This is the contrast.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I understand that, and I understand the point of your argument. But I was just asking about what you by definition, if it was non-intelligent, would you just de facto rule it out
Well, it is in the possibilities of.
as a god? I mean,
Uh,
like you say, it is by
I mean,
definition a
there.
non-god if
I
it's
mean,
not intelligent.
as long as there is no logical contradiction in the qualities or the ontological definition,
Mm-hmm.
then this deity is possible. We could even posit farting pixies or whatever you want. It
Okay,
doesn't
I mean,
matter
a pixie
really.
I would call intelligent, but like if it was like, but if there was
What
like
if it
some
was
all
an agent of chaos? Like things just it did things at random with no intent or design or purpose behind them. Just things happen randomly at its whim, and it was sufficiently powerful to do things like create the universe. Would you call that a god?
It is in the realm of logical possibilities, so yes, why not?
okay, gotcha.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah, so what we want to find out, what is the most logical, plausible, and rational position to hold in this pantheon, let's say, of possible worldviews, right? So, and this is basically where the tension lies. Where atheists they try to make a case for the no God hypothesis, and theists they try to make a case for the theistic position. Now, I think a very important um, thing to clarify right at the beginning is that since we are limited, we do not have access to the supernatural or the metaphysic. That means we cannot either prove that God exists or that he does not exist. So all we can do is, and this is what I do, I apply the methodology or the epistemological approach of abductive reasoning to the best explanation. What best explains our existence? Nobody has proofs, so asking the counter part or the opposite, the opponent, do you have proofs? That makes no sense because nobody has proofs.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the approach basically, and I think that when we look around us, we see a place, a universe which is very complex. It is huge, big. The universe is immensely big. It works based on physical laws. It is fine-tuned on very different levels in order to permit life and advanced life on planet Earth. Earth itself is also fine-tuned. The moon is fine-tuned. This all requires an explanation. So this is something which science has brought to light. This
Mm-hmm.
is not something which is acclaimed by theists or atheists. This is something which just has been discovered by science and described.
Okay. Now, when you said that the Earth was fine tuned, right? But it sounded like previously you were saying like the universe is fine tuned, or just the Earth is fine tuned.
Well, I wrote actually a book on it. You can look up my name on Amazon.
Okay.
Um, and There I collect close to 460 fine-tuned parameters, which all must be right
Are
in
you
order
talking
for
about the
life.
universe or Earth?
No, I am saying from the um, initial conditions of
Mm-hmm.
the universe when it started, then the expansion, atoms need to be fine-tuned, then there are several physical constants which must be just right. The composition of atoms must be just right. Protons, atoms are made of quarks. There are up and down quarks. There must
Mm-hmm.
be the right configuration. The forces must be right. And then we go to planets, stars, um, then
And
to
you're saying, well,
carbon.
without those things, you wouldn't have us on Earth.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Yes. So this is something which demands an explanation, and this is an active area of debate between atheists and theists. How do you explain that fine tuning? Is it best explained by a creator or by a multiverse or whatever you want to posit? Then we come to the origin of life, which I just, in these last few days, I published a book on the origin of life. And this is um, there you find many things which demand an explanation, and basically life is composed of hardware and software that is on chemistry and information that requires an explanation. And then we come to consciousness, which is also something which people have called the big problem of consciousness. So nobody knows where consciousness comes from.
Okay. So when you talk about, so let's talk about like at the beginning, you talked about like the fine tuning of the universe, right? You saying like at the initial moment of that's what Planck time, like right at the Big Bang. You're saying there was these configurations that needed to be in place for us to get to where we are right now. And you said
Yes.
that you said that had to be fine tuned.
Yes.
Now, okay, so it sounds like that you're making an assumption about you're attributing value to us here on Earth, or you're attributing value to this state of affairs. Like, so I agree that the at the beginning of the universe, certain things had to happen, or you wouldn't get to this state of affairs. Uh, I guess how were you getting? Like, why do you think that a God was necessary for that process?
Okay, I can give you this um, in a quick way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, laws of physics based on math depend on a lawgiver. Fine tuning depends on a fine tuner. The origin of instructional complex information requires someone which has an understanding about information. Uh,
Let's talk about the
and
first one. You said like the like laws of physics require a lawgiver. So
right.
laws of physics are descriptive laws. They're just describing the way the universe behaves. So it doesn't, you don't need a lawgiver for that. Like for instance, like if let's say if neither Einstein nor Newton were born, right? The two like, you know, giants in the realm of study of gravity. Let's say they never existed. Like gravity would still behave. Like there was no conscious mind. Gravity would still do its thing, and it would do it exactly how it does it, regardless of whether there was a law to describe it.
I agree with you on the fact that we describe these laws,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, there are some laws or some state of affairs where scientists and science doesn't have an answer to why it is precisely the way it is, because there is no physical necessity to be the way it is. So, I'll give you an example here.
Mm-hmm.
An atom, in order to be charge neutral, it has to have the right mass, and the right mass depends on the right configuration of up quarks and down quarks.
Mm-hmm.
And we can perfectly imagine a different composition of up and down quarks, and that would completely change the configuration of
Right.
charge,
Two
and
downs and
then
an
you
up gives
would
you a
either
neutron.
have and then you would have either positive or negative charged ions, which would annihilate immediately.
Right.
And the question is, why is the configuration of quarks precisely the way it is in order to have charge neutral atoms, which then permit to be stable, and you can have atoms which are billions of years stable. So these are questions which
So
science doesn't have an answer to it, and then you can apply philosophy, and I mean you can give different explanations why eventually that is so. Either there is an intelligent designer which had the intention to create matter and stable atoms,
uh,
or there are multiverses, there are innumerous
can
different
can we?
configurations, and ours is just the one which permits stable atoms. So there are different
Okay, so
inferences
let's talk
to
about like
draw.
you talk about the neutral the neutral particle, right? Like a neutron, right? Like there's two downs and an up quark. Okay, and you're saying okay, let's say um when you said science has no explanation for that, you're talking about they don't have an explanation for a purpose, not for a cause. Like you saying like science has no teleological explanation for that. But there is
Now
a
what I am s-
mechanistic
now
there
what I
is a
am saying
mechanistic
is
explanation of
Now,
for it.
what I am saying is this, Joshua, that
Hmm.
there is no physical necessity or something which constrains this configuration to be precisely the one it is, which permits to have stable atoms. You can
Right.
have you can have instead of, let's say, one up quark and two downs, you can also have one down and two ups, or three ups
Yeah,
or
and
only
that'll be a
three
proton.
downs.
Now, but why attribute a purpose to that? Because when you said like science can't explain that, like so like, science can explain mechanistically what's going on there. Well, what science does not do, nor does it attempt to do, is explain a purpose.
Well,
You
no,
know what I
the
mean?
thing of
So
purpose is philosophical and is
r-
completely
right,
absent from the argument. The
right. So
argument
you wouldn't,
basically,
but right, but you said like science just doesn't explain that, and you were saying like that demands a God. There'll be no reason to expect a teleological answer from science because that's just not what it does. Right? It
no, I
doesn't.
am not saying that science has to provide a teleological answer. As I
Okay.
said, science just um, figures out these things, brings them to light, describes them, and then it is up to us to try to understand, well, what is going on.
So
Why
let's say
is
I
it
have a
the way it is?
neutron.
But I'm not saying that we eventually should immediately ask about the meaning of this situation.
Uh
The
huh.
first question is, well, why is it so? When we have
That
no physical
right.
necessity, when there could be uh, basically an infinite alternative number of configurations which would not be um, um,
So
propenses to permit stable
now
atoms, but we live precisely in a universe where the configuration permits stable
now
atoms.
why do you think there would have to be a purpose? Like I walk outside and I see a leaf on the ground, right? Now would you if you were to come to like you were to come to my house in the states, would you think there was a purpose for that leaf to be on the ground?
But that's not what I am saying.
No,
I am not
but that's what
bringing
I'm.
purpose
No,
into
no,
the
no. Can you answer my
discourse.
question though? Can you answer my question?
Well, it would be something a different topic because I see it
But
like
it's
this.
not a different topic. If you answer it, I'm gonna reel it back in. I promise I am. So you see a leaf on the ground. Do you think there's a purpose?
Well, if you don't interrupt me, I will answer your question, okay?
Okay.
Basically, the question of purpose is completely apart from what I'm trying to discuss here. But my position is this. If there is a creator which made the physical universe, life and humans and so forth,
Hmm.
then there was an intention by this creator why he made all this. If there is none, then we are basically the product of a mindless accident, and then we cannot
No,
attribute any purpose
that's a
whatsoever to anything
that's a
unless,
false
I mean, we can
dichotomy.
make it up.
That's a false dichotomy. You said like if there's not a mindful creator, then it's all an accident. No, there's also physics that is just determined, right? Like if I have a bunch of items in my hand, some buoyant, some not. I throw it in the water. The buoyant ones are gonna float. The non-buoyant ones aren't. Right? That's no accident. Right? That's not
That is
chance.
yeah, this is a
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
consequence
Like it's
of
physics.
physics.
Physics is deterministic. So with in the physical world, there'd be no reason to expect it to act chaotically or random. Like that's kind of what I would expect if it was like a, a mind behind it, because maybe it's just doing whatever it wants. Oh, I want it this way. I want it this way. You know what I'm saying? But like in a deterministic physical world, I would expect something just like this. And
Well,
so
as I
the question
explained
I would
previous,
the reason I was asking about the leaf, because I was going to bring this back to the neutron, was I wanted to know, how do you determine things that have a purpose from things that don't? Like, because when you see a leaf on the ground, nobody, I don't think you would, if you come to my house and see a leaf on my sidewalk, you wouldn't think there's a purpose behind it. But when you look at the fact that two downs and an up quark make a neutron, you think there's a purpose. So when my question is, how are you distinguishing things, physical phenomena that have a purpose and physical phenomena that don't?
well, I didn't talk about purpose. Okay,
Well, you
what I am saying is this: that if you have a situation where there is no physical necessity, and you have an outcome which is meaningful, like the fact there are stable atoms which permit the existence of stars, planets, and
how did you
ultimately
determine there's no
life.
physical necessity for a neutron?
Well, as I explained previously, there is no physical necessity that the configuration has to be precisely the way it is. It could be
How did you
different.
determine that there is no necessity for it? Because the way I understand quarks, right? They come from like the standard model, like it's not even like the most fundamental theory. They have a theory more precise called quantum field theory, right? And so those quarks are from a field, and the field has no cause. It's just there from our best understanding. So how did you determine that these uncaused fields that are causing these particles that we call in quarks? How did you determine that it's not necessary?
Well, this is something which you are smuggling in. How do you know that these fields are not caused? I mean,
I'm sorry.
if you check,
According, sorry.
I mean, if you
Can I?
check virtual
Can I?
particles, they also need a field, and
Bef-
nobody has answered where does this quantum field come from.
exactly
And
right.
you
So
cannot just simply say, well, it just is, but the
well,
question why it is, this is something that no physicist or any one of us has actually a definitive
right.
explanation.
So
But
I'm sorry. The model doesn't try to attempt to explain why the field is there, but you're saying that the fact that a configuration of three quarks will make a neutron. How did you determine that wasn't necessary?
Well, by the simple fact that we have ions which annihilate in a fraction of seconds. So this is perfectly possible. And the question is, well, but why is the state of affairs as it is that we
I'm
have the
sorry.
precise
I'm sorry.
configuration?
Can you explain that again? Like, how did you determine that a neutron isn't necessary?
Well, because we have unstable atoms, so there is no
Right, but
physical
a neutron
necessity
isn't an
that they
unstable
must
atom.
be physically
But
stable.
but a neutron isn't an unstable atom, right? So just because there are unstable particles does not mean that a neutron isn't necessary, right? You see, like there's like no logical connection there. So can you?
Well, at the moment that you have an infinite range of possibilities, where um, all these alternative ranges they will not give you a meaningful outcome. but you have precisely a state of affairs which is permitting the physical universe and,
Right.
and life and so
And you
forth.
said that's
Then
not
of course you need to
necessary.
ask yourself, well, why is it so? This is a question which physicists ask themselves all the
When you
time.
say
I
when
mean,
you ask
Richard
when you say
Feynman,
why,
he himself said the number 1 divided to 137 uh, uh, define structure constant. This is the most incredible fact in physics which we have no explanation why it is precisely the way it is, because it could be different and then we would not be
Okay, but
here.
like, and I'm just gonna jump in here for a second because it seems like we're both kind of spinning in circles of where we're sitting. Why does that make you think that there's an intelligent design then? Because it seems to me that if it could be anything, if it could be 700 ups to 3 downs, or picking a number, X ups to Y downs, why does that make you think that there's an, like you mentioned specifically, like a fine tuning to it, right? If it literally could be anything, right? But it's not. As we've observed it and how we describe it, 2 ups, 1 down. But you say it can be anything in the whole world. It could be 5 million ups and 1 down, or it could be -1 down, and it could still work. Hypothetically, if we observed it that way, that would be the way we described it, correct?
Let me give you here an analogy so I can make a point pretty clear where I want to go with this, okay?
Will you answer my
Let's
question, or are you just going to just go on to your own tangent?
I'm trying to answer your question precisely with this analogy, which I'll try to make. Okay.
Okay, but like I want you to answer the question, not just give an analogy if you don't mind. Because I asked a question. If you're not going to answer it, then I don't really see the point. But go ahead.
Okay. So let's suppose you have someone which is playing in the lottery and he wins 500 times in a row every time he hits the jackpot. And you have two possible explanations. One is that he just had luck, and the other is that he cheated. What do you think is more likely?
Well, given
so there's a
given
problem
how
with
I know,
this.
so there's multiple problems with this.
Yeah.
But let's start with one. That's not the only two possibilities.
Right. That's what I was gonna
That's
say.
the first problem. There's
You are
more than that.
jumping the gun by saying there's two possibilities, either luck or
The
he
second
cheated.
the second thing is, I don't think you understand, at least when it comes to things like the Powerball, how nigh impossible it would be to cheat. It might statistically be more probable that he is more lucky than the probability that he is capable of cheating something like the Powerball system,
Well,
Or there
because
could be a
if the
it is
Powerball system is secure
it
or
is
not,
random.
this is not the
there,
question.
there
The
could also
question
be
is
a flaw
literally
in.
this.
But
If you have someone which wins 500 times in a row, and we had a case like this actually here in Brazil, where a politician, he had billions of dollars in the bank account, and they asked him, well, what happened? How did you get so much money in the bank account? And he said, well, I just won 100 times in a row in the lottery. And everyone laughed because everyone knew that this wasn't true. Obviously,
no,
uh,
but Ontangelo. So, but there's other outcomes. Like there could also be a flaw in their system. It is he doesn't have to cheat, and it doesn't have to be your luck either. There could be a flaw, like especially in
If
that.
the
that
if the lottery is, for instance, like we flip a coin and you call heads or tails, and the coin is a two-headed coin, and he always calls heads, guess what's going to happen 500 times in a row? He's going to win. Like there's so many factors into this quote unquote lottery that you just made up that don't make it anywhere close to a dichotomy. It is so far from a dichotomy that there are more possibilities that exist than I could come up with on the rest of the show. Like,
well,
not
let's
only could
just
he be
suppose.
cheating, somebody could be rigging the system. The system could be broken. There could be some mathematical formula that that he's able to figure out that solves the problem of math. This is an actual thing that happened in real lottery, where there was a mathematical formula that showed that if you played in large enough portions, you essentially won at a rate of 1.2, which means that if you put in $1 million, statistically, you would win $1.2 million. Does that mean that you're cheating? No, it just means you're good at math. There was a whole documentary on it.
Okay, so the statistics that you win the Powerball lottery is 1 in 300 million. Okay,
It's greater than that,
this.
actually.
Okay, let's put even that it's greater than that.
Sure.
Let's suppose that someone plays in a in just a regular Powerball game, and he wins 500 times in a row, and then you see that, and you have two possible explanations.
No,
One
no, you
is
don't.
that one is that the game was rigged, and the other is that he had just pure luck. What
So
do you
But,
think is
that's
but
the
false
I mean,
more?
that's not a
dichotomy.
What do you
dichotomy.
think is? Wow, why are you guys not letting me finish to speak?
Well, because we've already been over this. This is not a dichotomy. If I go outside and my tire is flat and I say, "What do you think happened?" Either someone came and slashed my tires or it went flat on its own. Do you think that's a true dichotomy?
Why don't
No,
we
they're an
play just
infinite number. They're an infinite
Why
number of
don't we just
possibilities.
stick to the example which I just gave? That's the
Because
game which I am
Hey,
you're giving an
asking you to
hey
example of a
give an
guys.
explanation.
you're
Hey,
giving an
Ontangelo.
example of a
I'm not
situation that
giving you
cannot be
any other
justified.
Hey guys,
hypothesis.
let
I
me.
am giving you a very clear hypothesis,
But hold
and
on.
I'm asking you to give an answer to that image, to that picture which I am drawing, and nothing else.
But hey,
Okay, okay.
hey,
Let's use the real rules of the Powerball, and I'm going to give you a really fun answer. The answer is, in order to cheat with the real rules of the Powerball successfully and win the Powerball 500 times in a row, the odds are about even. Now what? Because in order to successfully cheat the Powerball, you have to go through a lot. You'd have to account for millions of factors.
Well, the thing is that we presuppose that it is possible to cheat the Powerball game.
I
Okay.
presuppose it's possible to win the Powerball.
could you? Hey, Ontangelo, could you? So, so the analogy to the side. Can you tell what is the thing that you comparing this to? What is the real world example of winning the Powerball 500 times in
Okay,
a row?
it is very obvious that if it would be, let's suppose that it would really be possible, and in Brazil it has happened, so it is actually not theoretically but practically it is possible to cheat the Powerball game. Okay,
Okay.
so if someone wins 500 times in a row a game where to win just once it is 1 to over 300 million, and that person wins 500 times in a row, then it is obviously more plausible that the game was rigged rather than this guy had pure luck.
So Antangelo, so it might be possible that in the two scenarios in this false dichotomy that you've given, that one is more plausible than the other. That doesn't make it likely. You know what I mean by that? So like when Fasad talked about his tire being slashed, and I said, okay, well, he walks out, his tire's flat, and I say that here's the two scenarios. Either his neighbor slashed it, or Barack Obama slashed it. Right now, because his neighbor lives next door to him, it's statistically more likely that he would have done it rather than like a former president who's like has a bunch of eyes on him all the time, right? That doesn't mean that it's likely that his neighbor did it. Just because it's slightly more probable. You know what I'm saying? Like you gave two scenarios. One might have a 1% chance, the other might have a 1.5% chance. That doesn't make either of them likely. You know what I mean by that? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I think it is pretty much logical that if you have a neighbor that could have done it and the president, then you will say it is more likely that the neighbor did it rather than the president.
Right, but that doesn't mean so since you say that it's more likely that the neighbor did it, would it then be rational to conclude that the neighbor did it?
If you have these two options, of course, it is more
Right,
more
but there are
rational
more
that you stick with your neighbor than with the president.
right, but but what I'm saying is you're saying so because it's more likely that the neighbor did it than the president, you can logically conclude that it was the neighbor.
I make no conclusion because I cannot
Right,
eventually know with absolute certainty,
right.
right?
You don't even need absolute certainty here. But what I'm talking about, like, it's about what's rational. Just because you have one
It's more
possibility,
rational.
you
It's
think that
more
is
rational
rational.
that the neighbor did it rather than the president. Do you disagree with me?
No, okay. It is the chances. Okay, yes, it is slightly more rational, but it is not rational. I would say you would be insane to just jump to that conclusion. It'd be like, okay, somebody took out my trash this morning. It was either one, Elvis, or two, E.T. Well, we know at least Elvis existed at one point, right? Is it rational to conclude that Elvis took out my trash?
I don't know why you make things so complicated.
Well, I didn't make this complicated. What I'm saying is,
Yes,
you
you
gave this
are.
analogy. You gave this analogy with a false dichotomy, and you clearly know what a
No,
true dichotomy is. You gave one at the beginning. You said God or no God, right?
that's not a false dichotomy.
That is a true that's a true dichotomy.
That's a true
That's a
dichotomy,
true dichotomy.
exactly.
Okay, but then
And
with the Powerball,
I made
cheating or
you
luck.
made a very simple
Okay, no, but with the Powerball,
scenario here,
but
and I don't know why you come up with so many side things.
the
If
Powerball.
if you have two scenarios and two possibilities, one is that your neighbor did
But
it,
you
and
don't
the
have
other
two
is that the
possibilities,
president
Ontangelo.
did it. Then you say it is more likely that the neighbor did it. Point. What is the story here? Why are you making things so
Ontangelo,
complicated?
the reason it's complicated and it's not even really that complicated is because you're positing it as if those are the only options, which is not true.
But
It
that's
is
not
not
that
true
misses
that
the
the only
point. That's
options.
irrelevant to the question.
The question that you're trying to beg, and by the way, what you're doing is poisoning the well with this question. No one's going to fall for it on this channel, at least. Go somewhere else if you want to try pulling the wool over someone's eyes. But the question that you're positing is, well, since it's more rational, or since it's more possible that a intelligent mind created the universe than it came from complete randomness, therefore that's the logical conclusion you must draw. But what you're doing is excluding every other possibility, and that is poisoning the well, my friend, and neither
My
of us are
friend,
going to
there are
fall
two
for it.
possibilities. If you
No,
see
there
a
are not.
blueprint,
That is a lie. That is
okay,
an
so listen.
incorrect statement.
If you see a blueprint on a table to make a complex machine with a specific purpose, you have no idea where this blueprint came from. And someone comes to you and asks you, hey, Facade, this blueprint here, what do you think? Is it more likely that an intelligent engineer thought about this machine, he wanted to create this machine with a specific goal, and then he thought about a solution and he came up with that device, with that machine which solves and actually makes what the purpose is? Or is it just something which happened by happenstance, a random luck? What is more likely, that the blueprint with
In of the
contains the
two
instructions to
possibilities,
make a specific
so
machine with
I'm going to
specific
answer your
purposes
question.
has an engineer as a mind, or
Here's the
did it
answer to your
just
question.
happen by happenstance? What do you
Here,
think is a
the
more
here's the answer
likely
to your question.
occurrence? Well, why
And
are you
I'm
interrupting me again? Because I
because you're
think it
so,
is important that
I
you
already
listen,
got your
and
point.
then
You
you
ready? I'm
actually
going to
answer
answer
my
your
question,
question. Now
because
I
it
need you to
is
answer mine.
irrelevant.
I'm going to answer your question, Ontangelo. Now
Well,
just
so why
be
are you
quiet so I can answer.
interrupting me? Why are you
You're
so
interrupting me right
impatient?
Hey,
now.
guys, hold on. All right,
The
all right.
answer to your question about the blueprint on the table, okay? The answer is an omniscient alien did it. How do you
Good.
like the
Then,
answer?
good. That would still be more rational than pure luck.
Would it?
Absolutely.
Okay, but Occam's razor wouldn't agree. What you'd have to say is that now an infinitely intelligent mind happened to be at this place and this time that created this thing with this purpose and for me to
Well, the thing
observe.
is that Occam's razor
There is,
doesn't
there is
work
no difference in that
when
and pure randomness.
wow. Wow. Okay, I am losing patience here. And if I am
You think you're
keeping being
losing patience?
interrupted
Try
when
being
I'm
able to
about to
talk.
make a point,
Stop, guys.
then what will be that I will just leave the stream, okay? So if you want to avoid that, then I would appreciate it if I can finish my sentences and then you respond.
Afford me the same courtesy and I'll do the same. But when I
I
get
am
cut off
trying.
and when you don't answer questions, and when I ask you a question, then you don't answer the question, and then I tell you I'm going to answer the question, and then you tell me to answer the question while I'm answering the question, that's not helpful. I have answered your question directly with the appropriate answer. You have yet to answer any of mine.
Well, I
And
am
you've gone
trying
on
to
these
respond
tangents.
to Occam's razor, and if you grant me the time, then I will respond why I think that Occam's razor isn't a good response.
I want you, guys. Hold on,
Occam's razor is not
Ontangelo.
relevant to
I
my
want you to
answer.
Well, you brought up
let's.
Occam's
But hey,
razor.
guys, let's hear
Go.
let's hear at least hear. I'll let Ontangelo explain why he think it's relevant.
Well,
Uh,
Occam's razor isn't a good explanation because if you have something which is simpler as an explanation but it doesn't work, then it's meaningless.
Do you
so,
think
but that's not Occam's
randomness is
razor.
a also? Do you think randomness is less likely than an omniscient being?
What I am saying is that when you see a blueprint to make a machine which
No, no,
has a
no, no. And
specific. Why
I'm
are you
Antangelo.
interrupting
Stop,
me
stop.
again? Why are you
Because
interrupting me
you're
again?
not answering my
Wow! I am
question.
trying to answer you.
You're
So
not.
I am finishing my patience
You're
here,
not answering
and
the
either
question.
you are giving me and granting me time to respond, and if you interrupt me once more, I will
All right,
leave the
guys,
stream.
hold on.
Are we
Guys,
clear?
hold on.
If you fucking answer the question, then I
Hold
won't
on.
interrupt.
Hold on. All right, Ontangelo. So first, I wanted to talk about. You said Occam's razor. You said that if it sounds like you think that Occam's razor is just an appeal to the most simplest answer.
That's basically what Occam's razor is, yes.
That's not what it is. So it's appealing to the answer with the fewest assumptions. That's not necessarily the simplest, right? So like you acknowledge that luck exists, right? So with the blueprint analogy, right? And Facade has said it was an omniscient alien or luck, right? Now you acknowledge that luck exists, right? And we talk
Yeah,
about
so
luck.
if you posit luck
Okay.
and say, well, Occam's razor points to luck, but if luck isn't a hypothesis which actually works and you can test it, then it isn't, it's meaningless to invoke Occam's razor.
But hold on. So now with luck, we know it actually exists. With an omniscient alien, we have absolutely no evidence of.
That's
So
why I
so that
give.
means you're
That's
applying
why.
way more assumptions to the omniscient alien. So that
That's
wouldn't
why
be
I
Occam's
don't
razor.
say omniscient aliens. I say here is intelligence, and here is no intelligence. Okay, either something is intelligent or not intelligent. So these are the two proposals on the table. When you see a blueprint which contains the information to make a complex machine made of several parts which has a specific function. Based on our own experience, I'm a machine designer by profession. I have actually worked 10 years in the field and I have made many blueprints. I know that through my intelligence, I am capable to instantiate a blueprint because I experience it. I know this is something which works.
Sure.
Now, if you give me the alternative hypothesis that no intelligence is capable of instantiating a blueprint which then can be used to make a specific machine for a specific purpose, then I'll tell you, well, I've never seen this happen, so we have no experience. So we can also
That's
make
great.
a statistical analysis and see, well, what is the statistics that eventually random luck or random unguided events create a blueprint for a specific purpose. And we can do that.
Okay, so now, have you ever seen an intelligent mind create a neutron?
Well, the thing is that I don't need to see intelligence create a blueprint
But
in
wait a
order
minute.
to say
You
that
just said earlier.
the effect leads you to the cause. So you don't need to have direct experience of the cause making the blueprint to make the inference the blueprint has more likely an intelligent cause rather than not.
But no,
No,
Ontangelo,
hold up.
You just said. I just want to point out, Eric. You had just said that the way you know that an intelligent mind creates the blueprints is because you have never seen non-intelligence create blueprints. All right. So you were appealing to what you can see, observe, right? Or right now, when I ask you, have you ever seen an intelligent mind create a neutron? Now suddenly you don't need to see that. You don't need evidence for that.
As I said previously, the effect leads you to the cause. So when you have a blueprint where you know that intelligent minds, engineers create blueprints, and you suddenly see eventually in nature a blueprint, but you have no knowledge whatsoever about the cause of that blueprint in nature, then it is rational to infer that similar causes instantiated that blueprint rather than not.
Why would you think that if you saw a blueprint in nature that it would have a cause? I mean, it would be created by just like if it's in nature, then it's natural, right?
Well, just because it's natural doesn't mean that it had no creator or no mind which created it.
So for you, anything could be like literally everything. There's no distinction between created and non-created things. Like everything was created by intentional mind.
Well, the distinction is that we can actually make the distinction between things that we know that intelligence can create and no intelligence cannot create. We know
Could you
this
name me
by our
something?
own experience.
Could you describe something that intelligence cannot create?
No, what I am saying is that there are things which unguided random events have never been shown to be
I
capable
understand
to
that.
create.
But
And
Ontangelo,
blueprints is one of those
I know
things which
I
we
know
have
what you
never
said.
experienced, that they can be instantiated
Ontangelo,
by random unguided events.
I know what you said, but I asked you a question, right? Now, because I asked you a question, like how do you distinguish design from non-design things? And you just like told me what you said again. Like I know what you said. What I'm asking is, since you're somehow distinguishing them, can you give me an example of something that you would say is not created, something that could not be made by an intelligent mind?
Well, what I am saying is that there are many phenomena which do
Ontangelo,
not.
I'm not asking you what you're saying.
Wow,
I'm
I'm
asking
trying
you a
to
question.
answer you. Why are you? I'm trying to answer. Why are you interrupting me?
Okay. Could you repeat my question?
Because you're not answering. That's the
Yes, I
problem
am
that I
trying
have.
to answer, but you are not letting me.
Okay,
No, you keep
could you
repeating
repeat
yourself over and over again.
Could you tell me what the question was and then answer it?
No, I will answer your question.
Okay.
Okay, so the random assortment of sand on a sand beach doesn't require an intelligent mind to make that assortment. It is the product literally of natural forces, wind, rain, or whatever you want to put it. So when you see a sandy beach, then you don't infer intelligence was which put each sand at the precise place where that sand is, because random forces, they make random beaches.
How did you
Let me
determine
jump in.
that
Let me
the
jump in. Hang on,
sand
hang
is
on, hang on,
random?
hang on,
Okay.
hang on. Before you go there, AAA, let me ask this. Do you think the ecosystem on Earth is necessary for sand to form on beaches?
Yes, of
Yes or
course,
no?
because a
Okay. Well,
sandwich
I don't
is
mean
part
just
of the
yes or no, man.
ecosystem,
I'm not.
right?
Okay, fine.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
you're
So
interrupting me again. You are
the
unable
answer
to
is
have a
yes.
decent conversation, my
Yeah,
friend.
I just asked for a yes or no, homie. Okay, another yes or no question. Do you think that the ecosystem on Earth was designed?
Of course.
Then you think that the system that put the sand in place was designed.
Yes.
Therefore, it is not random.
So it's not an answer to my question. Is the
That's
point?
a straw man because I said the precise position of sand on the beach doesn't
And
depend on
you'd
an
agree that the
intelligence. So
system does
why are you
that.
interrupting me again?
You agree that the system does that, Ontangelo. You just said so. You think the wind, the rain, the waves, everything, you think that's part of this system, and you think that system is designed. That means that every particle of sand, the wind that blew the sand into its place, was part of this design. You think that the rocks that melted to form the sand was designed as part of the erosion system. You think that the rain that broke down the sand and the particles into sand were part of a design.
I
You think that the earthquakes, the like movement of the earth, the movement of the tides, everything is part of the system. That means indeed the literal placement of every grain of sand is part of a design.
Antangelo, question for you. How did you determine, like, if you look at the sand on the beach, right? You look at two areas of the sand on the beach. How did you determine that one area is random and the other isn't?
Okay, let me give you a nice example here.
Hmm.
Imagine Mount Rushmore.
Okay, okay. Well, we're talking about the sand on the beach still.
Yes, but this is a nice example.
Okay.
On Mount Rushmore, you have the faces of four presidents, right?
Hmm.
And on the side, you have just the natural structure of the mountain, right?
I believe so. I've never seen it. I've never been to it in person,
Okay,
but in
so
person, but sure.
so on the one side, you have just the natural formation of rocks,
Hmm.
and on the other side, you have these four faces. And now someone comes to you and asks you, um, can you tell me what here was made by human hands and what is more likely the product of natural forces? Do you think you can make this distinction?
Yeah, I could, but that's not relevant to the question I asked, right? Because like if I said like back to the sand area, like if one had a castle on it and the other was just flat sand, I will look at the castle one. I'd be like, hey, somebody probably put that stuff there. So I'm talking. There's two areas, right? Okay, so they're both flat sand. One is a random assortment, the other is not. How do you just?
That's an excellent example. There you have the distinction. You know that the
Well,
sandcastle
how do you
was
just?
more likely
No,
made
no, there's
by
no sandcastle, and
some
this,
humans, and the random sand on the side probably is just the
and
product of natural forces. That
I'm
was
not.
precisely
There's
my
no cat and
point.
no, no, no. Answer, answer. There's no castle. Like there's two flat areas of sand. One is random, the other isn't. Like how did you pick up a grain of sand? How did you determine that that grain of sand was or was not randomly placed?
By inference to the best explanation. You don't need to know with absolute certainty if this is something which eventually happened in the past, that someone put the sand there purposefully and on the side he didn't. But what I am saying is that you can make a distinction between things which are designed
It
and
doesn't seem
other
like
things which are probably not designed. We
it doesn't
can
seem
do
like you
that.
could because like the sand could be placed there by like a turtle that or a seagull or something like that. It doesn't have to be random. Like I mean, you just don't know. Like the examples of you can give me where something would definitely not will probably not be random are these like pretty these fabulous examples where it's like there's a castle or Mount Rushmore or something like that. Most of nature doesn't look like that. Like you look at a neutron, you're for some reason thinking it's designed, and I'm looking at it. I don't see why you would think that. I guess I'm trying to figure out, how are you getting there? How are you looking at something and then saying it is not designed? Because not
Well, I tried to
everything.
explain it to you, but it seems you didn't understand it. But whatever, I gave you, I think, a better picture or a better analogy, and I think a sand castle. It is more likely that someone built it rather than random forces in nature did it,
But
right?
Ontangelo, so in my
Well, can you
analogy,
answer now my question? Do you agree
yeah,
with that? Yes or
yes,
no?
yes,
Okay,
that's not
great.
my
That's my
question though.
point.
That is your
That's
point.
all the
Your
point I am
point.
making.
You
That
but
you can actually distinguish when you
you're
see a
answering
sandcastle that someone with
you're
intelligence
answering
made
something
it
I
rather
didn't
than not.
ask.
Is that so difficult to be
Angelo,
understood?
the question was, do you have two flat areas of the beach? One,
Why are you making so difficult
Antangelo, can
examples?
you listen to what? Can
That's
you listen to the
meaningless to the
scenario?
discussion.
Can you listen to the scenario? I
That
said
that is actually
there's two.
poisoning the well because it is
I'm not
meaningless to
poisoning what
what I am
I'm.
trying to explain to
I'm
you.
asking to ask the question, and then I asked the question about two grains of sand on the beach, and you said, well, the one that has a castle on it. There's no a castle in my analogy. There's no castle there.
Well, in your analogy, I don't know. Maybe it was,
Right.
maybe
You
it
don't.
wasn't. So what?
That's well. You're making a bunch of inferences off of it. Like you're looking at a neutron and saying, oh, there must be someone who made it. For what? And then when I
I
ask you,
explained you my reason. You didn't get it.
you
Okay, I will not repeat myself.
okay, can you be specific? You look at a neutron. Why is the neutron designed?
Because there is an infinite number of possible configurations where you just have ions which annihilate in a fraction of a second, and you have basically nothing meaningful.
So,
But
all
if
right.
you have an atom which actually is the basic building block then of
Mhm.
chemistry, of stars, of planets, and the end of life,
Right
then
now,
this tells you something.
so no,
And
but
if it doesn't tell you something, then I cannot help you.
let's go. Okay, let's go there. You said there is an infinite number of unstable other possibilities. Now, I don't know how you got there to be infinite, but let's say that now, if the other possibilities are unstable, what's the chances of you making a particle out of it? Pretty slim. If you do, the particle isn't going to last very long. The stable ones are going to last, right? Like there's not just up. It's not just up and down. You got top, bottom, strange, and charm as well, right? So like those quarks are highly unstable. So you can't make things out of them. That's why you don't see things made out of them. Ups and downs are very stable. That's why we see down things made out of ups and downs. We see protons and neutrons. So doesn't that kind of contradict your point?
It
Why would you
doesn't
expect to
because
see an unstable particle? Why would you expect to see an unstable state of affairs? The stable one is going to stay. The unstable one wouldn't.
the issue here is that in the enormous amount of alternatives, you have no meaningful or any outcome whatsoever. And
But they're
in regards
unstable. They're not
of an
going to last
atom
very
which
long.
has this precisely this configuration, two ups and one down, you have a configuration which permits you to have stable atoms, and the atom is fine-tuned in the order of 1 to 10 to the 300th power. So, I mean, the question again is, why is that state of affair the way it is? And we are here just talking about one fine-tuned parameter amongst over 450, which also need to be just right in order to have a life-permitting universe, and that demands an
You just
explanation.
gave the explanation. The other ones are unstable.
can I ask a question? Because I'm dumb. I have a question. So you said this points to intelligence, but you also say that there's a very limited number of stable atoms, and there's an infinite number, your words, not mine, infinite number of unstable particles, right?
There are ions which
Yeah,
are
sure. There's
immediately
an infinite
annihilated.
number, an infinite number of them.
Well, I mean, let's say they are infinite or it's
I,
very large number,
okay,
whatever you
sure,
want to
great.
put there. It
Thank you
doesn't
for
change the argument, okay?
okay. Thank you for clarifying. If that's the case, how does that point to intelligence? Because a sufficiently intelligent being doesn't need an innumerably large number of useless particles.
What?
Why, as a sufficiently intelligent being, would I create useless ions? You said there's a near infinite number of these useless things,
They are
unstable.
possible. I am not saying that they are created. I am saying that there is an infinite
Okay,
number
okay,
of
but you're
possible state of affairs
I
where you
get you,
have
but you're
basically
saying that this is
no universe
evidence,
whatsoever or a universe which is not life permitting. And the
and you're saying
question
that this
is,
is
well,
evidence
why
of
are things
intelligence.
exactly the way it is which permit a life permitting universe? This is a big question. And you
So
don't have many alternative explanations. One
But
is that an intelligence made it
I'm
so,
ta-
and the other is
Ontangelo,
that you would posit an infinite number of alternative universes, and then
I don't
eventually
even
we
need
are
them.
in the lucky one. Because
I don't need
multiverses
them.
is what many physicists try to posit, which want to avoid an
I'm
intelligent
so
creator.
do
okay,
you think that
Ontangelo,
God
I don't need them.
do, do you think that God made up and down quarks but not the others?
I
The other
don't
quarks.
know.
Did God not
I
make
am
those?
not God. I have not been there to know what he
I'm
did,
not
what he
asking what
did
you know.
not.
I'm asking what you think. Right? Do you think that God only made the ups and downs?
I don't know. I'm not God.
I didn't ask you what you know. Like
So I
you
don't
haven't told me
know.
anything that you know. Like first of all, an ion is not an unstable particle. An ion is just an atom that has a different amount of protons and electrons. That's all that is. But okay, but now when I'm talking about an unstable quark, right? You have there's other types than up and down. Now you up and down are stable, right? The others are not. That perfectly explains why ups and downs are more common. You're going to see more of the stable ones because the unstable ones decay into stable ones. Like a top or a strange or a charm, it will quickly decay into a up or down. That's why you see more ups and downs, and that's why things are made out of them. Okay, so what I'm not asking what you know. So please don't tell me you weren't there. Clearly, do you think that God did not make unstable particles?
Well, there are unstable particles, so of course he made them, right?
No, it's not. I don't think God exists. But I'm asking what you think. So, because if
I
so,
just told you what I think.
you said of course God made him, right? No, no, when not
Well, in
according
my
to your
worldview,
logic.
yes, he made
All
them.
right,
What
because
if you
but
don't believe in God? That's another topic.
okay, so but at first you was pointing to the stability of a particle as evidence for God. Now you're saying the instability of a particle is also evidence for God. So whether the particle is stable or not stable, you think God made it. So why are you appealing to the stability of a particle? Because it doesn't matter in your mind, right? Like even if things was just quickly just decaying and nothing could ever be made.
You know, I think that you don't see the forest in front of so many trees in front of you.
Cause you
Because I have tried actually to simplify my explanations and the reasons why I believe in a way that anyone can understand it. And when I explain it, then you guys come up with so many alternative things which are completely irrelevant to
that
my
that's
argument.
that's a
Now,
great
what you did that
psychoanalysis.
I really
I'm not
liked is why can I
Francesco.
not finish to make my point
Okay.
here? So you came up with a very nice explanation, which we actually agree with, that when you see a sandcastle on the beach and you have no clue what happened, it is more likely that some children went there and made that sandcastle rather than natural forces made that sandcastle. That's based on our experience because children make sand castles.
I agree.
And usually natural forces do not make sand castles.
Do you remember
So
why?
this is not difficult to understand. We are agreeing on that. And I can extrapolate that exactly to the same situation of the blueprint which I gave you. When we see a blueprint on the table, based on our past experience, we know that intelligent beings, engineers, they make blueprints for
let me jump in
machines
here.
which have a specific
Let me
purpose.
jump in here.
We have no experience that
You don't
natural
have to keep going.
forces make blueprints. That's why it's rational to make the inference, if we don't know who made the blueprint, that someone intelligent made the blueprint.
Who have you seen make a neutron?
Can we agree? Can we agree on that, Joshua? Yes or no?
If you see someone make
Yes or
something,
no? Yes or no?
uh, if you see someone make something,
Yes or
but
no?
you haven't answered yes or
Yes,
no to anything.
that's a yes
Dude,
or
you
no
haven't answered a
question.
yes or no
Yes,
question
you
the
don't-
whole
you don't-
time.
If you see or whatever, I asked
The
you
answer,
yes or
answer,
no.
the
And
answer
this
is
is a
yes.
true yes or
I've
no
given you the
question.
answer a
You can say
million
first yes
times.
or
The
no, then
answer,
give your answer. So I
The
ask you
answer-
again.
Antangelo,
Listen, I
Antangelo,
ask you again.
will you
The
will
If
you
you
let
see
us
a
answer?
blueprint on the table,
I'm trying
is
to
it
answer.
more
Jesus
likely that
Christ.
someone made it?
Jesus
Yes or
Christ.
no?
I'm trying
Antangelo.
to answer.
Hey,
The
Antangelo.
answer is
Yes
If you
or no?
the the
For
answer.
fuck's sake, shut up and let us answer.
No, I'm not
The-
shutting up because you guys also do not shut up and you don't answer.
If you don't
Now it's
shut up,
my
then how are
turn.
we
You
supposed to
guys do
answer
not
you?
answer a simple question.
I'm
So my
trying.
The
question
answer,
again is this.
Antangelo.
If you see
Antangelo,
a
shut the fuck
blueprint
up,
on the
dude. The
table,
answer is
Guys,
yes.
is it more likely that an engineer,
D-
intelligent, made the blueprint?
An
Yes
engineer,
or no?
an engineer. It's an engineer.
on.
The answer's fucking
Good. We are
yes.
on the same
But-
page
but hold on.
twice
Great.
now.
That doesn't get you any
Thank
fucking
you.
closer to a
Antangelo,
god.
here's I want to explain. Here's the
That
symmetry
doesn't
breaker.
get you any fucking closer to
Here-
your god.
This is the symmetry.
Absolutely
None.
does.
Not
Hold on.
one step.
Absolutely
Guys,
it
hold
does.
on.
You conceded
guys.
No.
2 things already.
Guys, hold on. Here's the symmetry
Not
breaker.
one.
I want to explain the symmetry breaker, right? With the blueprints in the the sandcastle, right? We know the origins of sandcastles. We can watch people make
It doesn't
sandcastles.
matter.
We can watch people make blueprints. That's how we know that blueprints
Yes,
come from intelligence.
exactly. Yes.
Okay. Have you
Yes.
seen anybody make a neutron?
Now the thing
Right.
is,
That-
now
that-
listen,
that's
now
where it
listen
falls apart.
carefully to what
That
I
is
will
why
tell
the
you.
argument falls apart.
Now listen carefully to my argument. If you see a blueprint and you have no clue who made it, but you can infer logically and plausibly that someone equipped with intelligence made the
Okay, your
blueprint
turn.
based on our experience.
Do you think
And
a
I
Your
think
neutron
turn.
is a
and I
blueprint?
think we can agree on that. Yes or no?
Your turn. Your
you think a
turn.
neutron is a
The
blueprint?
universe. You see it as it exists. Did you see anyone make the plans for it? Yes or no? Yes or no, Ontangelo? Did you see anyone make the plans for the universe? I've never seen it. Either of you. So you don't have any way to infer who made the plans or what made the plans for the universe, right?
Okay, I will
You-
make
you
the
agree.
inference. I will make the inference of the blueprint not to the universe, but to something else. But before I am doing that, I
Oh,
will
for
give you a
fuck's sake. No,
quote
not
here.
before you're doing
Now
that. Answer my question,
carefully
yes or no.
This quote. Why are you interrupting me again? So listen carefully to this.
Because you won't answer my question, Ontangelo.
Listen carefully.
Answer my question, and then you can go off on your tangent.
To this, please. Okay. So
Listen carefully to
Listen
me.
carefully
Answer my
to
question.
Hey,
listen carefully
let me
to
hear
this,
it.
please.
Ontangelo, no,
Shut
I'm
up.
not going to
Guys,
listen carefully. You
shut
won't
up.
answer.
Shut up.
Dude,
guys,
you
guys.
won't answer the question.
Let's be gentlemen. Let's be gentlemen. Hey, guys, let's be
I've been
Shut
more than a
up.
gentleman.
guys,
Ontangelo.
So listen.
Ontangelo,
I just wanna-
answer my
hey,
question.
guys.
Answer my question.
Hey, guys.
This quote here. Okay.
Let-
So listen. carefully.
Ontangelo, answer my question.
No, I will not answer your question
Okay.
because I was speaking.
Of
I
course you
wanted to
won't. You
give
know
this
why?
quote,
Because you're a fucking
and
idiot.
you
Guys,
interrupted
guys.
me. Okay.
Guys, okay. Perhaps the quote explains.
Exactly. It will explain.
I
If
will
Okay,
bet you my
okay,
left nut
right.
that it
if
doesn't.
you
But
grant
but
me,
I will bet
but
you
hold
my
on,
left
but hold
nut.
on,
grant
but hold
me
on,
the
Angelo.
time
If
and listen carefully, okay?
but before you,
Ontangelo, if
but before
what
you,
you say is not relevant, you have to suck my dick when this is over.
guys, stop, guys. If I was gonna say
Okay, if you once
if it's
again
not,
resort to
guys,
things like
please,
that, I
let's
will
reel this
leave the
in.
stream.
Let's
Okay, so
let's leave this
Well,
in.
you've
either
been
you
very
keep
productive for
Guys,
it.
quiet,
please, I don't want to mute
or
anybody.
I don't
I
see
don't
any
want to mute
reason
anyone. I
to
just want to
remain here. So
please
I
just
will
Answer
I
my
will make
fucking
the last
question.
attempt
guys.
to give my
Answer my
quote here,
question.
which I think is relevant to the discussion. And if I'm
I
being
bet you my
interrupted,
left
then
nut it's
again,
not.
I will leave the stream.
Guys,
So
hold
do
on.
I
I bet you
have
my
the
left
word?
nut it's
Yes or
not.
no?
Guys, stop. I
My
just
left nut says it's not relevant.
stop. Okay, I just want to here. Listen. But before you read the quote, I just want to say that if your quote doesn't answer his question, then you have to go through yes or no through our questions. Can we agree to that?
Okay.
Okay, cool. And before you go, could you tell me what his question was?
No, I don't remember now.
Okay,
So you're
Tangelo,
giving me a quote not
how could you
relevant to my
know
question.
if you don't know what the question was? How did you know that was going to be the answer?
Why are you going to respond with a random quote that doesn't is not relevant to my question?
What I am saying will be very relevant to what I am saying to this discussion.
Okay, but what you're saying has been all over the fucking place and it doesn't answer my question. When I ask a question, I want an answer. I don't want a random fucking quote. If I wanted random quotes, I'd go read Nietzsche
So,
or
so
Twain or
so
Shakespeare.
facade. Could you
I can
repeat
get quotes off the internet.
facade? Could you repeat that question? And then on Tangelo, I want you to assess whether this quote answers that. If you remember
The question is, in given your blueprint scenario, you say because we've seen people make blueprints and because we see children build sandcastles, we can infer that it's more likely that a person built a random blueprint or built a random sandcastle. In what scenario do we have any example of anyone creating or designing the universe that we can go and infer that the universe is then designed?
Right. So my answer, my quote will be directly relevant to your question. Okay?
Okay, I bet otherwise, but go ahead.
In the analogy of two phenomena, be very close and striking, while at the same time the cause of one is very obvious, it becomes scarcely possible to refuse to admit the action of an analogous cause in the other, tough not so obvious in itself. So this applies to the blueprint. In the one side, we have blueprints which are made by intelligence, by humans, by engineers, which make routinely blueprints which then serve to make machines which have a specific purpose.
how did
So
you
when we
determine that?
see, I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
So when you see a phenomena which is analogous to a blueprint in nature, where you do not have any knowledge or empirical proof who made that thing in nature, it is logical to infer an analogous cause, which would be in case intelligent. And we have this kind of analogous situations in nature, and I can give you one. When you see the information, the specified complex information which is stored in DNA, which directs the making of proteins, which are molecular machines for a specific purpose, then we can infer that it is more likely that an intelligent mind created life rather than random happenstance and natural events.
So, do you know an argument from analogy is like it's a fallacy?
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, because
Oh,
like
yeah.
the problem is like you could do that with anything. Like I could say like the Earth is a basketball. Basketballs were invented by James Naismith. James Naismith made the Earth. All right.
So
So
how is
like
that relevant to what I just said? Would you like to
because
address actually what I
you
just said,
you
please?
admitted that your argument was was
An
purely
argument
based on analogy.
from analogy.
It's an argument from analogy. That's that's the relevance.
Your whole argument is that because we see this thing that kind of looks like things, they must have some complex origin, like the thing that we know has a complex origin.
Right. You could say like computers are like a brain because they both process information. Computers are made in factories. My brain is made in a factory. Like we could do this all day, and we can do it with true things and untrue things. Like the analogies can get super stupid. You know what I mean? Like wait, I'm human, you're human. My dad is Elvis, so your dad is Elvis. Right? Like we could do this all day. That's why arguments from analogy they don't really work, especially not with scientific things. And
Also,
another
I'd really like to
problem,
point out is how different things like a blueprint in the universe are.
right? There are so what we have. We don't have blueprints of the universe. We have a universe. That's what we have. There's you can't point to me blueprints in the universe. You just all we have is the universe. I like to see the example of that. I like to see the blueprints of a neutron. I see neutrons. I don't see blueprints of them. Now, a question I had asked while you were making your argument was, how did you determine that blueprints come about through intelligent minds?
Through our experience.
Right. Through your own experience. So you've observed directly or indirectly that blueprints come from intelligent minds.
Yes,
Right. So
exactly.
now the symmetry breaker is that you have a universe and you have never seen an intelligent mind create universes. So
So
when
what?
you see a that means the argument that your analogy breaks down. So
I
not only
don't
is
need to
but-
see someone
but-
making a universe. That's
but-
the whole fucking point.
what I'm saying is you're
Okay.
so not only is your
You didn't
argument
understand
fallacious, your
the
inference
quote
rule.
which I just gave, and you are talking all around here, but you didn't address actually what
I
I
addressed
said.
your point directly. I addressed how
My
it was
point
fallacious.
was not about the universe in this analogy. My analogy was that blueprints are equal to the information which is stored in DNA, which is also kind of blueprint because it instructs, it directs through the
said it's
complex
kind of
information.
blueprint.
Why are you interrupting me?
You said you just
Why
interrupted.
are you interrupting
You interrupted
me? Why
me.
are you interrupting me? I was in the middle of giving you an explanation and you interrupt me. Now, listen,
Ontangelo.
this is very difficult to have a conversation because you guys do not focus on what I say. Your answers are unrelated to what I am
There's
trying
directly-
to explain to
what
you.
I'm saying is,
you
I'm
guys
addressing your
interrupt
argument
me all the
directly.
time. And
It
you
was a
guys do
fallacy.
not try to understand what I am actually saying. So
Ontangelo,
I think
Is
this conversation
DNA
is
a
over.
blueprint or is
So,
it like
Joshua,
a blueprint?
I will give you the last word because this is senseless, basically. You guys are not qualified and able to have a meaningful, intelligent conversation here. And you talk
Are-
about
are
all
you the
kind
one
of
that gets to
things,
determine
but
that?
you're not focusing on what I am saying.
Are
I
you
have
the one that
nothing
gets to
else
determine
tell
that?
you, Okay, so Joshua, for education, I didn't leave the stream earlier, but I think that it's meaningless to continue this, and I will give you the last word.
Okay, well, I appreciate you giving me the last word. I will say that you can go look at previous episodes. We are more than capable of having intelligent, deep conversations. We've done this is like what episode 80, 90 or something like that. So we do this all the time.
Yeah,
But
sure. Okay.
the reason that we're directly addressing your argument by
No, you
looking.
didn't.
We did. I thought
No,
you
you
were gonna give me
didn't.
last word. You changed your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you finish.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, no, please, please, because I could tell you why I was directly addressing your argument. Right? You gave an argument, and I looked at the structure of it, and the structure is fallacious. And then, even if somehow you grant the validity of your argument, the inference rule doesn't work because the inference rule you're making is you look at blueprints, and you know through experience they have a designer. But when you look at DNA, you do not have that same experience that its origin is from a designer. So your inference rule doesn't even make any sense. There are so many gaps, so many errors in their reasoning. Like it's just, we can't even get to all of them. Me and Fasad was pointing to different errors in your argument, over talking each other, because we were seeing different problems with it. That is what was going on. But we were directly addressing your argument. Would you
Yeah,
agree
so
that? Would you agree that if you present an argument, if I were to present an argument, and you pointed out that the argument was invalid for certain reasons, that directly addresses the argument?
okay, so what I exactly did was also applying Occam's razor. When you have a blueprint in nature and you have two competing hypotheses, one is that random unguided events created that blueprint, and another is that intelligence was directly involved. When you have experienced that intelligence actually is a capable mechanism, and you have no experience whatsoever that random events are also capable, then you apply Occam's razor and say it is more logical, more plausible, based on our experience, to infer that an intelligence probably created that blueprint in nature.
So
That
I'm going
is
to
the whole
address two
point.
things real quick on that whole thing. One, Occam's razor doesn't say that. It says it points to the simplest, going and appealing to a significantly powerful being to then create a more simple structure than the omnipotent being must be does not follow Occam's razor. And then three, third point is that we do see things like polypeptide side chaining in nature without a directed God. We've seen it in labs. Those are the very fundamentals of proteins, which are the basic concepts of amino acids and life itself. We have seen it and observed it on Earth. We've seen it and observed it on comets. So, what you're saying is something that we've seen and observed happen in nature that was undirected and unguided has happened. We know for a fact it can happen. And what you're saying is, no, instead, I'm going to insert this sufficiently omnipotent and powerful creature that must be incredibly more complex than that to then create this unique, nuanced thing that we've seen occur naturally. That's a poor
Also,
application of Occam's razor.
also you're applying Occam's razor to a false dichotomy. You said random unguided forces or intelligence. So DNA follows rules in biology, which follows rules in chemistry, which follows rules in physics, right? There's no reason to think those forces are unguided and random. So you already have a false dichotomy. When you said between unguided forces and intelligence, my answer would be neither. Neither of those things. They are not intelligent, nor are they unguided. They are very
Which
guided. Just like
which
what I
is why
get.
we had the problem with your analogy about winning the lottery, because we know that there are more options than a sub, like significantly powerful being and pure randomness. We appeal to things like physics and the laws of nature that help guide these actions, which is why we say there's probably a third option. And in this case, we know there's more than two options, right? Just like in the case of your lottery guy, we know there's more than two possibilities, which is why we couldn't get past that point, which is
Yeah,
why this seemed like
Joshua.
such a complex thing for you, because you keep making these false dichotomies and then applying Occam's razor to something. I agree with you that in the case of a sandcastle, it's more likely a kid made it than it formed naturally. But that doesn't give you application or credence to say the universe was then created. Those are two really, really different things that you don't get to randomly apply some slice of your logic to.
Okay, can I answer now? Because there's so many things that I would need time to unfold here. But first of all, my God, he is not complex because he is a spirit. That's the first thing. He can have complex thoughts, but he, as a spirit, he isn't made of parts which are complex.
That
That's the
doesn't make
first thing.
something
I
complex.
can I finish now, please?
I wanted to point
Can
out
I
that doesn't
finish
make
now,
something
please?
complex.
Okay.
Can I finish now, please? I
You're gonna,
didn't
you're
finish
gonna finish.
yet.
I want you to define. Can you define
I
complexity?
didn't finish yet.
Will you define complexity
didn't
before you
Guys,
continue?
finish yet.
Hey, Ontangelo.
I'm asking for
I
clarity.
didn't
Will you
finish
define
yet. I listened
complexity?
5 minutes to your gish gallop, and I'm
Will
starting
you
to talk,
define
and you
complexity?
interrupt me again. So
Will you
please let
define
me finish
complexity?
just one sentence before I go, because I
Can
don't
you
support
define
this
complexity?
guys,
disrespect anymore here. Okay.
Ontangelo. Okay.
Can you define
So,
complexity?
Joshua,
You know what
I
he's
would
asking?
like to end this with my last response to you. I think you need to study a little bit more biochemistry, because the sequence of DNA and RNA, which dictates the making of proteins, isn't dictated by physical necessity. Otherwise, it wouldn't be instructional information. So the sequence of nucleotides, it can have any kind of sequence. That's why it is possible to use it as a language to give instructions. So there is no physical necessity for that sequence. In sequence space, to make just a sequence of 100 amino acids, it's the number of atoms in the universe, the possibility just to have 100 amino acids, which is a third of one protein. You have about 1300 proteins to make life. So you lack the knowledge in biochemistry, you make assertions which you have no knowledge about, and you guys are unable to actually answer directly to a point which I am making. Then you have been very disrespectful, constantly interrupted me, and I have nothing else to teach you. Okay.
Cool.
So
Answer me
my
a question
last
for
word.
me.
And anyway, thank
How
you,
many
Joshua,
how
for
many
having
protein
me,
base pairs are
and
there?
good night. Okay.
Ontangelo,
Good
how many
night.
protein base pairs are there? Do you know?
Appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I bet you didn't. Anyone take a stab? Anyone in the chat happen to know how many protein base pairs are? I bet you know. I
I
bet
just
you know,
real.
don't you?
I don't.
No? Oh,
No.
guess how big this number is, because he kept quoting like 100 amino acids that make 13 proteins, which would make the basic formation of life. Care to take a stab at the number of base pairs in all of DNA? Super big number here. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
4.
4.
Yep, 4. So when he says this is complex language, it's, I mean, yes and no. It's how many times can you put any 4 characters in any 4 sequences in some string of events? A, B, C, D. That's not the real ones, but I think it's T, D, A, and N. But whatever.
Well,
Who am I? Who am I? Right? I'm not
but
a physicist
I
or
I
a
will say though
biochemist.
that this conversation went far better than it did about a year ago when we had him on. I think he quit at like the 35-minute mark.
I'll say
So,
this, and
but
there's no way in hell he's gonna listen to this, but
mhm.
dude is really arrogant to not really know what he's talking about. And I admit I don't know what I'm talking about a lot, but his application of things like Occam's razor and his misunderstanding of things like polypeptide side chaining just really shows that he's got this thing in his head that there's this super, super, super complex thing that has to happen, when in reality, like we see under certain conditions, polypeptide side chaining happens on Earth in somewhat regular occurrences. We've even seen it on things like comets, which I mentioned. And
Mhm.
the reason I mentioned that is because if it can happen on a comet in certain conditions, they're very like the preconditions of like early Earth, which is pretty telling of how life probably formed.
Yeah, I mean,
But the false dichotomies killed me, man.
yeah, it did. I mean, most of our critiques had really nothing to do with biology. It was really just the structure of his arguments, like those false dichotomies. It's either random or God did it. Like neither. Like the science isn't saying it's random. Like so, it was so problematic just the structures. But appreciate him. Come on, I appreciate you guys watching. It was a blast, even though it got heated sometimes. But Yeah, man. Next week we do not have a guest yet. I have a guy in mind. We were in talks. We'll see what happens if he's able to come on. If so, we'll be streaming around the same time. So, but guys, thanks for tuning in again and watching this lively episode where a few f bombs was dropped, but it was fun. All right, guys, I'm out. I'll see you guys later.